So, Rob, what are some interesting things that you've seen on the internet lately?
Broom standing. Well, the overkill of broom standing.
Have you done it?
Yesterday was a busy day. I didn't get home really till late because Brett had a game and
lacrosse.
And we were gonna do it, but Brett's like, I already tried. Our broom didn't work. Our broom's pretty jacked up on the bottom, like it's not like level or like, so it didn't work.
Worked for me. The day after.
But yesterday was the only day it was possible. So you did it today.
I did it this morning.
And our other co-host has decided to leave because he's probably like, I'm going to get a broom. Is
he going to get a broom?
He's getting a broom. Here he comes with a broom. He's about to put that dirty broom on the dining room table.
The table that they eat food off of.
I'm just going to move my drink and get ready to like...
Yeah, there you go.
No, he's holding it.
No, not yet. He's going to get there.
Yeah,
well, don't hit me in the face, please.
Oh, right here. ACC Talk. Right here. You're welcome. Thank you, NASA. Are you mad?
This is the day after.
Does your broom look worse than my broom?
Oh, yeah. Way worse. Minus the Hurley hair.
Don't you just hate it when pastors just have to one-up you?
My broom looks worse than yours, and it stood up.
I've had this broom for 5 or 6 years.
Really?
Oh, yeah, it's old. Super old.
Well, hello, broom. I can't believe you just put that on your table. My wife would be freaking out. Coronavirus?
My wife won't see this until Thursday.
Sorry, Josie. Sorry. But honestly, I think probably the thing that I laughed at most this week was like, and I watched it multiple times, was the BYU mascot being launched from the 3-point line, grabbing an alley-oop and dunking it.
That video is pretty epic.
I'm just excited to see who says we're not being outdone by BYU and what's happening next. That's what I'm waiting for.
Dude,
I just, like, if it's real, that mascot is like, what, 75 pounds? Like 90 maybe?
That...
A very small human being.
Very small. Very small. Maybe a cannon from half court. Launch someone out of a cannon. Because I feel like it's fake. And they don't think it's fake. But I think it's fake. I don't see how you could physically throw somebody from the 3-point line to dunk the ball. So, if people were going to go further than the 3-point line, I think they're going to need something like beyond manpower.
Jetpack.
So
Superman cape.
Have you guys seen anything interesting on the internet?
Let us know.
That's a scary question to put out there.
Make sure it's make sure it's PG.
PG. Not PG-13. PG.
Keep the PG-13 stuff to yourself.
Oh, man.
All right. Hey, welcome to ACC Talk. My name is Jarrell.
I'm Rob.
And I'm Dave.
Hey, and we just want to welcome you. This week, we are still in our relationship series at the church. And so here on the podcast, we are going to be talking about really these two questions. The first one is, how do you know if you're ready to get married? And what was your first year of marriage like? What was your experiences? So we want this to be interactive. And so we'd love for you just to kind of chime in and let us know the answers to those questions. And then we're going to talk through a little bit about our experiences and how hopefully it'll lead you through how to know if you're ready to get married or if you experienced anything similar to us in our first year of marriage. So, Dave, what about you? Were you ready to get married, or how did you know?
Well, no, I was not ready to get married.
Are you ready now?
No. But it's worked.
Winging it.
We're still together. I think the biggest key for me with my wife was knowing that she valued her relationship with God more than she valued a relationship with me. And I think that if you walk into a relationship with that, I think anything that comes after, it might be hard. I'm not going to. We've had our fair share of arguments that felt like this could be it. This could be the end. But because we valued our relationship with God so much, we knew that it wasn't. We knew that there was a way to get past it. And so I would say, how do you know if you're ready? Have you found somebody that values their relationship with God the same way that you do? And there's always going to be like that leap of faith. Like there's always going to be that step that you have to take where it's like, I don't know, those nerves and those jitters. I don't know if you can ever be fully sure in anything that you do, but it was a worthwhile leap for me, for sure.
Yeah, I'd say a lot of the same stuff. Obviously, knowing Crystal was the one, we had the foundation in Christ was the first thing. I think that's really important that you're building on that same foundation as you move forward. Obviously, you enter into dating, and obviously there's usually a physical attraction, and so as you get to know the person, you don't necessarily lose that, but maybe I knew I was falling more in love with Crystal for the person she was, and I don't think you can ever be fully ready for anything. And so we had somebody give us advice, like, if you think there's a spot that you'll be 100% ready for marriage, it never will be. And, it's one of those things you don't necessarily wait until you think maybe you're financially perfect for it. Obviously, you got to be responsible and have a plan. And so as we continue to talk and in our relationship, there was just things that we talked about that I knew were really heading in the same direction I wanted to head, and goals. And one of those, for instance, was I knew at some point I wanted kids pretty early on, and so did Crystal. We wanted to be kind of young parents, and part of that was also that I really wanted her to be able to stay home without kids. And so obviously she needed to want that and desire that. It wasn't something you're going to force to happen. And so when we were talking, and that was the same goal, there was so much that was lining up in the direction and the kind of vision for a family where we were going. And so that's where I was like, yeah, I know we're ready. And we had, we did not have a ton of money. Literally, we got married. I finished up my last semester of college, doing an internship, which allowed me to work full time at the church. I was able to do what I was doing in ministry as my internship. But I wasn't making a ton, but it paid the bills, and we made it somehow. God was really good.
Yeah, I think that's key. So Ecclesiastes says that if you wait for the perfect time to do anything, you'll never do it. And I think that's a key verse for a lot of things in life, marriage, kids.
Yeah.
And then, for us, if my wife, if Sharon was not on board before we got married, going into ministry, like I just can't imagine what would that be like if we didn't have those same goals for our family. Because ministry for us has not been like a cakewalk.
Sure.
I've been with church plants the majority of my ministry career that could not pay me full time. And so it was a lot of time outside of the home dedicated to that. And if my wife had not been on board for what ministry was going to be and what it would look like, she would have bailed on me a long time ago.
For sure. Hey, so Rob, you kind of talked about this a little bit before. There was a lot of divorces in Crystal's family. Sure. And before you guys married, it was that was kind of something that you guys had to deal with. And so how did you guys deal with that leading on to getting ready to get married?
Well, yeah, obviously, as we got more serious in our relationship, that became a major concern. Again, a lot of what Crystal had seen in growing up and within her own immediate family and extended family was pretty much almost every marriage ended in divorce. And so it almost seemed to be the norm. It kind of was almost like that was an expectation. And she didn't want that. And actually got it to a point that really scared her, that I don't want to go that route. I don't want that. So why even go there? And it kind of almost put the brakes on for us in our relationship at a certain point. And so we just had to really talk through that. And one of those commitments, and it's easy to say, but I think it's key, and I think it comes back to that foundation of having Jesus, was that it's not an option. You can't even use it as a threat. It can't be something you're talking about, like, well, if you don't change or if this doesn't happen, then I'm going to leave. And you just can't even let it enter in. And so we really had to work through that. Part of that came in, and I think part of knowing you're ready to get married, if you're at that point, just highly recommend premarital counseling. We went through that with one of the pastors we knew, and just valuable, and helped us walk through, like, to speak truth in our life. Like, just because that's what's happened in the past to others doesn't mean it has to happen to you.
Yeah.
And so I think that's just a key. And so if you're at that point that you think you're there and you're engaged, don't get to the point of marriage without maybe taking that opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. I think for Josie and I think at the time we thought we were ready. But I mean, I think that harkens back to that idea of we're young, we're super confident, like we've got this, sort of deal. Definitely madly in love, ready to start ministry together and all those sorts of different things. And so that was one of the things that we did for sure, is we did premarital counseling, and we spoke with Josie's mom and dad. But that was something that was really important to her, that we get his blessing, even though he doesn't believe in Jesus. And so I kind of see that as this kind of pivotal point in me having the courage to go to him and ask for his blessing, even though he said 2 weeks prior, he shouldn't ask me. So we're flying up to Montana, and I'm just like, man, all this awkwardness and like trying to find a time where we're alone, and like, how do you bring this up, And so now looking back on it, like, say we had all this confidence that we were ready, but Josie and I were both in school. We didn't have jobs, like steady, consistent work, but we had this very deep, we'll say faith because that sounds very spiritual, but that like God was going to provide and everything was going to be good. And so we just felt like, hey, God, we feel like he's calling us to do this, and he's going to take care of it. And so I wanted to ask this question to you guys, but hey, if your daughters come to you and they're like, I think I'm ready to get married, and the guys are in the same life place that we were in, are you saying yay or nay?
I would say for me, it really depends on, I wouldn't, the financial stability is not important to me.
Okay.
Like, I think you can figure that part out, as long as the person has the right kind of character. And so I would have said yes to myself, because I love Jesus. I feel like it was very apparent in my life and how I approached interactions with my mother-in-law. And so looking back on that, like, I think as long as the person has that character that I could trust, because financial stuff we can figure out, but do I trust that the guy is going to take care of my daughter spiritually and emotionally? I think that's the keys that I would be looking for.
Yeah, obviously you want to make sure that they're not like, hey, can we live with you? That's that piece. And obviously I think if there's any of that situation, I say that kind of jokingly, obviously my hope would be that they don't necessarily have all the financial situation figured out and have all the finances that would be perfect, what seems perfect. But at least they've got that ability to be independent and be a couple. I think that's really important, that you're able to be a couple. There's not that of like awkwardness. You're in somebody else's house. It's your home, and you're really establishing who your family is. It would be really key. My hope is, and it's not necessarily the question you asked, but it kind of goes more into parenting, is my hope is that I have modeled to Caitlin, my daughter, what a husband should look like. I'm not perfect, but like how I've treated her mother over the years that she has seen, that if she's got a guy that doesn't live up to what she feels should be, that she's not even going to come and bring me somebody that I feel that I should say yes to. Yeah. If that makes sense.
I feel like it's a little bit different with your own daughters. You might be like, yeah, it'll all work out, with your wife. But with my daughter, like, I definitely think I'd be like, okay, so you found the right person. That's great. Maybe you can just pump the brakes just a little. Just
now, Jarrell's got 4 daughters. First one that comes to ask if you married is maybe this way, but like you can have her.
How long was your relationship before you guys got married?
Oh yeah, so we met in August.
Okay,
at college orientation, freshman orientation. We started dating in November. We were engaged in January and married in June.
Whew.
So we're talking 9 months total.
I thought mine was fast.
9 months total.
So I knew Sharon before we started dating.
Mm-hmm.
We'd been around each other a little bit in high school, but we weren't friends.
Didn't your high school have like 14 people?
35, but we don't do different.
Sorry. I sold
Hey,
you
wait.
short.
That was my graduating class. There were more people in the school than that.
My graduating class was like 500 people.
Yeah, it's different.
Mine was over 1,000.
Small school. But we didn't go to the same high school. We just went to, her sister went to our youth group. So I'd met her before, and we went to the same after school program. But we started dating in April, engaged in December, married at the end of May. So it was, 13 months for our relationship. So
Yeah.
9 months. I would definitely have asked you to pump the brakes.
So
Hey, but you don't burn.
Yeah.
Don't let
seriously.
yourself burn with that lust.
Yeah, that was another conversation that we were having. I definitely do think that there's a certain amount of, hey, I'm not sure if I want to be married, so let's have a long engagement. And I think we would all equally agree that's probably not what you should do.
Well, it's especially if you're going to
Like I'm talking like 1 to 2 years in sort of engagement.
It's that element again. If you're going to follow what Scripture and what God says about the marriage relationship and where intimacy comes into that it is for in the bounds of marriage, it's not good. And again, sex isn't a bad thing. And often I think we portray it in the church as being this negative thing. It's a gift that God has given to the husband and the wife. And so, again, our bodies are actually wired for that. It's a natural response. And so, obviously, as you fall in love with somebody, you get to that point that you feel like you're going to marry somebody. Hopefully, it's more than just a physical attraction. You really are in love with that person, the person that they are, the character, their desires, and the sense of their goals. And so, I think it becomes even a greater temptation at that point. And so, yeah, I'm a proponent that if you are, you believe in Jesus and you're trying to do it His way, the right way, shorter engagement's a better thing.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, don't over tempt yourself. All right, so let's turn into the second question, and that question is: first year of marriage. What was your experience? Hopefully, to be able to provide encouragement to those people that either are newly married or have been married for a little bit, just in terms of what is quote unquote normal.
I don't think there's anything that is normal, because what's normal to one person isn't normal to somebody else. You grow up in your home, your family style that you grew up in, what you saw maybe a mom, what you saw a dad do. You often think that's normal, but that may not be normal for somebody else. And so our first year of marriage, I would look back on it, I'd say it was great. I wouldn't say, but I'm sure there was, because obviously, like we talked about last time we were on doing this, it's at that age kind of immature. And so there's a lot of learning. There's a lot of adapting. There's got to be a lot of compromising taking place as you learn to live with somebody, as you learn to, do life through even the ugly parts and awkward moments and sickness and different things and situations that come up. And so it was definitely a time to learn. Again, I'm thankful for my wife, having patience, having forgiveness. I know still working on that, of not being a selfish person.
Yep.
And so I think that's the biggest challenge, is learning how to do that. But again, when you've got the mindset of this is not an option, we're committed to this, you work through those.
Yeah. For me, because I think we've talked about this before, where you, Pastor Rob, had heard like people say that first year of marriage is always a terrible experience. It's hard. And I would say, that was not the case for us. We actually had a really great situation where I got married, but Sharon still had a year of college left, and I was a resident assistant all through college. And the department approached me and asked me to be a resident director. And so for our first year of marriage, we had zero money stress. Like, it was our rent was taken care of. I had a meal plan, insurance, and all this stuff was taken care of. And so for our first year of marriage, we definitely, I'm not going to say we didn't have arguments. We absolutely, there was, you asked Sharon about Risk and if she will play me in Risk again. And the answer is going to be no, because I beat her really badly one time and she did not like that. I would say,
were you gloating though? Were you kind of gloating along the way?
I would not say I'm a gloater, but I will say I didn't hold back.
Cutthroat.
And there was a point where the dice were rolling in my favor, and it was a very frustrating experience.
You
for her.
Suck.
So we learned don't play Risk together. It's a bad idea, but I would say on the whole, our first year of marriage was great. It was a great opportunity to just kind of learn each other, figure out quirks and try to work through that stuff. I remember the first time I ever cleaned a bathroom after we were married. My wife immediately walks in and re-cleans the whole thing. And to this day, I've rarely, if ever, cleaned a bathroom in our house.
That's how you do it?
Would you say that was the smartest thing you've ever done?
Unintentionally, probably. Yeah, absolutely.
So for Josie and I's first year of marriage, it definitely was interesting. Like we were talking about this a little bit ago, but I think when you get married, because we got married at 19. And so when you get married at 19, she was 21, I was 19. And she's going to love that I shared that with you. Because
cradle robber.
She's right, robbing the cradle. So anyways,
baby Jarrell.
she's gonna hate you. So the interesting part with that is we got married so young that you really have no idea how selfish and how immature you are, and how much you don't realize that the things that you like and the things that you want to do, you will make those things seem like that's what's normal. And then your partner, whatever they like or what they want to do, like, man, that's wrong. And so I remember just back to that first year of, having a lot of those sort of arguments, either about driving and the proper way to drive and how much am I in my lane instead of being out of my lane and all those good things. And it wasn't until, like, say, many years forward that we were able to come to a place and realize that the things that we were bringing to each other weren't things that we were saying because I'm not on your side. Like, I'm going to criticize this thing, or I'm going to give you feedback about this thing because I'm not on your side. It's just what I think is normal and what I think is good. And so I think once we began to realize that it's not out of a particular bad place, we began to realize that this is who I am, this is who Josie is, and I really can begin to control the way how I think about something, and she can control the way how she thinks about something a little bit better when we don't respond the way that we hoped that we would have. And so we had a lot of great moments in the first couple of years of our marriage, but I definitely remember we grew up together. In a lot of ways we grew up together. And so that was not my expectation going into marriage. I definitely thought it was going to be just like tons of sex, right? Like, and sure, there might be other stuff, but like that was kind of like just the thought process. And then when it's like, man, we need to work through when you go to bed and when I go to bed, and is the TV on when we go to bed, or is it off, or, how you drive, or when you eat, and what do we do for Christmas, and what do we do for Thanksgiving? We didn't do a whole ton of that communication beforehand. There was definitely things that we did.
Did you guys do premarital?
We did do premarital, but I would say for that, I think it was more focused on our own spiritual health, but I don't remember it. So that's the general assumption. Yeah. But we didn't work through that communication beforehand. That communication happened in the moment. And typically, we're not the greatest in the moment communicators. So it's definitely been something that we've grown into. We've definitely grown into it. So what is some advice that you would give to newlywed couples or, couples that are about to get married, what's some advice that you would give to them just in this journey, this really marathon of marriage? And I don't say that in a mean way, but it's not a sprint. It's not for a week, it's for the rest of your life. What's some advice that you have for them?
I think the biggest thing to keep in mind is really an attitude as you enter into that. Do you have the expectation, or are you hoping that your spouse is going to serve you, or are you going to serve them? Because if you come with the first one that they're going to serve me, you're just setting yourself up for disaster.
Yep.
They are human. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to disappoint. They're going to let you down. They're going to hurt your feelings. And not intentionally. It's just how life goes, and it's just how relationships work. But if you come with the mindset, I'm going to serve my spouse, I'm going to do everything I can to make my spouse a better person, and lift them up and care for them no matter what. Obviously, that's the model Jesus has given us and why we're called to do it. I think it can change your whole perspective and help really walk through those. There's some of those things you're talking about of like the differences in who we are as individuals.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing for me is to not do marriage alone. So like a lot of times you get married and it's just you guys and you're just figuring stuff out, and you're kind of doing it alone. And so you don't have, so the one thing that I would always say is have a mentor couple, have a couple in your life who's married that can really speak into your marriage, because you might hit a point where you have no way forward in an argument. And you feel like you've just hit like a wall and you don't know how to get forward. And you sometimes need that third party perspective to really speak into how are we going to make it past this? And then also finding a small group, finding a group of people, that have a lot of similar values to you as far as what a marriage looks like, and work on that stuff together, go through that together. We have two really, really great marriage groups at ACC, one of which is led by a marriage counselor. And so that's the advice I would give. Don't do it alone.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and I would say really for me, the big thing is communication. Like, man, there will be things that you expect, and you probably don't think that you have tons of expectations, but there are definitely things that you expect because it's what you're used to. And so having those conversations well before Thanksgiving or well before Christmas, having those conversations about kids and how many kids that you want, and career path and all of those sort of different things. I think that if you have those early on, especially in that engagement period or even before you decide that you want to get married, to make sure that you guys are heading in alike directions and you're on similar paths, man, I think that can help you a ton. And then I think there is this piece, just kind of echoing off of what you said, Rob, about submitting to one another is, man, I think if you will allow it, marriage will humble you. And I think that you need to allow that to happen to you, that you are not the most important thing in the world that needs to be pleased all the time. And I think if you can get that in your head and communicate, how things make you feel and some of the expectations that you have, you really can avoid a whole heap of problems.
Yeah, I mean, I would say marriage has been like the most refining process that I've ever been in my life. Like the amount of refinement that I've had to go just to continue to be married is pretty incredible. And so just know that's going to come and be on the lookout for it.
I think the other thing I would just encourage people is, especially, Dave, you've been married how many years?
Oh my gosh, you're making me do math.
I'll be ready.
Be ready. 14 years this year.
Maybe he'll edit that so it looks better for you.
We will not.
Jarrell, you've been married what?
14 years. 2006?
Yeah.
Hey, look at
What
that.
month?
That would have been funny if
May.
you guys said different
June.
different years, and you both were saying 14. That would have been really good.
So
and then to clarify that.
quick aside before you do this, because this is going to be great. So Emery and Marley are talking in the car yesterday, and Marley turns to Emery and says, "Okay, boomer." And Josie says, "I don't think you know what that means." Okay, boomer, how long have you guys been married?
22. We're now
22
22nd year.
years.
And no, we've been married 22, so this is really the 23rd year. Gosh. Seems like, in some ways, it seems so short. In other ways, so long. But I think the encouragement I would give couples, no matter where you're at, even if you just got married, I think there's a tendency to go, we're married, and I don't need to work at the relationship anymore. When we're courting somebody, when we're in that dating phase, we're always trying to put that best foot forward because we don't want to lose that person. And I think oftentimes we get into marriage and we're like, all right, we're married. I don't have to do anything anymore. Marriage takes work. And so the encouragement is to make sure you're working at continuing to fall in love. And so keep dating. It's not uncommon you see families or a marriage fall apart once it becomes an empty nest. And it's kind of because the kids became the center of the marriage, and that's what defined the marriage, and that's what the marriage was because of the kids, and everything revolved around the kids. Kids are an incredible blessing, but they shouldn't define your marriage. Your marriage is what's important, and the kids have been invited into the marriage, and when you decided to have children. And so making sure you keep dating, that you're finding time to continue to fall in love and have those moments of romance, that you're creating that for me, my desire is that Crystal knows she's still the most important human being in my life.
That's really cool. Well, hey, thank you guys for joining us today on ACC Talk. We have 3 services on Sunday, 9:30, 11, and 12:30.
Hey, you got it right.
I did. I've never gotten it wrong. We'd love to invite you to that. If you have a preteen, 4th and 5th grader, you can come to our 3rd service at 12:30 p.m. and they have an awesome program for that.
Still time to get in a group.
Small groups.
Small groups. We've launched them. They're great. We have a couple of great marriage groups. I'm leading freedom groups and Fresh Start. And so tons of just opportunities for you to find a group of people.
Yeah. So if you're not connected, get connected. You guys have a great week, and we'll see you guys next week.
Oh, you guys got it this time. You got it.
Oh, you didn't complete it. Complete it. You got to do it.
No.
Did you really think he was going to? No.